This is Epic Book Recaps, a podcast that offers complimentary audio summaries of influential non-fiction books, making learning a smarter experience. Parenting from the inside out. Grow with your children. Parent-child relationships are by no means the ones tied by fate forever. Whether you like it or not, parents shape your life in a way that's difficult to change. And when you choose to have your own children, you mold their lives one way or another. Of course, you want to give them your best, but let's be honest. You're just a human like all of us. You have your strengths and weaknesses. There's no point in hiding them from your children. Instead, it's better to learn from your mistakes, communicate clearly, and be honest with your little ones. Don't just raise your children, grow with them. If you believe you'll never raise your children like your parents did, you're in the right place. We don't know your parents, but we know you want to be better. It's natural progress, and we're all here for it. Are you? Parenting is a vicious circle. When you become a parent, not only do you receive a chance to provide them with a better childhood, but you also make amends with yours. However, you're most likely to stumble on your way. You must accept it. If you feel calm and ready to learn, we'll take a look at how your early experiences trap you in a loop. Your uncooperative brain. Ways to break out of the trap. Parenting always exposes the wounds and scars you collected in your childhood. Unfortunately, no one mentions this trivial detail to first-time mums and dads. As a result, many young parents feel guilty or torment themselves when their impatience or impulsivity takes over. A safe attachment between parents and children is partly possible when adults fully understand and interpret their early experiences. The other half of success is rewriting your behavioral patterns. If this is you, making sense of your childhood will help you build a secure and creative environment for your little ones. Children can be better teachers to you than you are to them. Before you start fixing the unintentional wrongs of your own parents, you need to understand why you repeat their mistakes. Your brain readily changes the neural links in charge of remembering experiences. Simply put, it's all about your memory and specifically its implicit form. Implicit memory generates your emotions and immediate responses due to its default character. In the end, you are physically unable to connect past experiences to your current reactions because implicit memory works under the radar of your awareness. Controlled by implicit memories, you can react in the wrong way without realizing why. However, explicit memory requires consciousness to recall experiences. It also manages your response flexibility. In other words, it helps you make balanced decisions. By cooperating with your explicit memory, you can learn to be more mindful. Mindfulness is critical for staying mentally present with your children. They sense your absence. Respond maturely. Think before acting. Add joy to your life. Children are great at relaxing. Stop running on empty and enjoy the simple things with your kids. By freeing ourselves from the constraints of our past, we can offer our children the spontaneous and connecting relationships that enable them to thrive. Tilda Daniel J. Siegel, MD, Mary Hartzell, Med. Children have feelings too. Good communication is a critical skill for every grown, independent person. We start developing it from day one with the help of our parents. However, when our primary caregivers communicate poorly, we learn the wrong cues that spoil our relations with our own children later. So, if you want to prevent such a thing from happening, focus on the following. Understanding your emotions. Attuning to your child's feelings and experiences. Providing contingent communication. Every connection starts with emotions, and so will we. Children primarily rely on them to communicate their needs or thoughts. Their little world is limited to feelings, so refusal or indifference to their discoveries can create a traumatic experience. For example, the beetles a child finds outside may not be the best thing on your kitchen table, but they mean a whole lot in that little person's mind. Shouting or denying your child's impressions will cause dissonance that can later reveal itself through a poor sense of self. A better way to tune into your child's emotional wavelength is by using your primary emotions: eye contact, facial expressions, voice tone, and intensity. A good example is parents copying their toddler's expressions playfully. Your baby senses your understanding and knows their needs will be met. The same applies to negative sensations. Sharing a child's frustrations is important too. Children experience everything for the first time. You were once a child, so disrespecting their feelings is hypocritical. However, what do you do if you struggle with empathy? Healing starts with understanding the source of your emotional responses. Let's look at an example. A parent takes their child to a shoe store hoping for an enjoyable experience. But as time passes from one pair to another, the adult gets annoyed, and the child senses it. The parent doesn't realize their childhood shopping always meant cheaper and faster because of the many siblings in the family. They must work on their earlier experiences to not infect their child with the same responses in the future and improve their overall communication. Did you know? The same neural processes manage emotions and a sense of meaning. It implies that feelings are a crucial part of feedback. One more thing about attachment. The word attachment has entered our everyday vocabulary over the last couple of years, making any potential romance more difficult than it already is. Suddenly you can't date avoidance because they'll leave you on read. What we don't discuss enough as a society is how these attachment styles develop and how to smooth their edges or even heal them. That's why we'll use this opportunity to finally talk about how you can inherit your attachment, ways your attachment as a child shapes your adult life, finding a cure for the sake of your and your child's happiness. Our bond with parents or caretakers results from their non-verbal responses to our needs as children. In addition, other people, distant family, friends, teachers, also influence our attachment style. According to research, a strong and safe connection between a child and someone other than a parent creates an additional source of resilience. There's no need to dramatize your insecure childhood. Instead, prove it hasn't defined you. A safe attachment consists of 3 elements, cleverly named the ABCs: attunement, balance, and coherence. Attunement is the ability to align your perception with your child's. If successful, it slowly feeds their minds and balances their emotions. Finally, the top of the attachment alphabet is coherence, when the child is fully and safely integrated within themselves and their relationship with their parents. If the ABCs are disproportionate or maladaptive, let's say a child experienced physical or emotional abuse, you get the following attachment styles. 1. Avoidant attachment. The parent continuously avoids or rejects the child's need for connection, so the child grows emotionally distant and shies away from closeness. 2. Ambivalent attachment. The parent is unpredictable with their communication, so the child doesn't feel safe interacting with them. 3. Disorganized attachment. Experiencing emotional or physical violence from an unstable parent can cause the child's further isolation from society or difficulties fitting in. Children who grow up having maladaptive attachment styles struggle to empathize or open up to others, including their own children. However, they are treatable. Start with these self-reflection questions. What was your childhood like? Did you have a different relationship with each of your parents? How did your parents respond to your joy or happiness? How did your experiences as a child shape your adult relationships? You'll have a roadmap to a safer attachment if you answer these questions honestly. You don't have to be perfect. It's impossible to always stay positive and unwavering with your child. You're a normal human being that has good and bad days. However, when your irritation becomes chronic, the best thing to do is prevent it from metastasizing into the relationship with your child. You may need to learn a couple of terms to begin with. Low and high modes of processing. Examples of low-road thinking, self-reflection, to heal relationships. Parents often feel disappointed after a harsh reaction toward their child. They didn't expect to react this way. It came out spontaneously. They rarely register the true source of their irritation, their unresolved issues. As you remember, the implicit memory conceals the events that forego a harmful recall. You won't realize why your mind shuts off suddenly or becomes defensive before your child's call for attention. This feeling of self-protective inertia is called the low mode of processing and gets triggered by anger, sadness, fear, and other corresponding emotions. Every time you find yourself running on empty, your maladaptive reaction signals you're stuck in a loop. Opposite to the low mode, the high mode operates through the prefrontal cortex, the top section of the brain related to ratio. Simply put, you don't react to your child's signal but act consciously to align with and understand them. Your parents did their best with you. Everyone's best is different, but it's perfect if you understand it. Let's look at an example. A parent takes their child to the playground, and they're having a good time. Suddenly, the parent realizes they're late for an appointment and calls their child to return. The child refuses, maddening the parent, who becomes angry. The kid is confused at the sudden change. In this situation, the parent doesn't realize they failed to set boundaries, a problem they've struggled with for years. If you recognize yourself now, here is some advice on how to start healing your wounds. Recall the times you had a low-road state around your children. How did you act, and how did they react? Can you name specific interactions with your children that led to your low-road state? If you're in a low-road state, distance yourself from your children. Go for a walk or be alone for a while. Every fight must find its peace. As mentioned earlier, fights and misunderstandings between parents and their offspring are inevitable. People are different, even if related by blood. However, when conflicts become more chronic and painful, they leave a permanent mark on both parties. How can you avoid it? Well, let's see. Be compassionate toward your children. Communicate your needs and boundaries clearly. Take responsibility for your words. When talking about compassion towards someone, we really mean compassion toward yourself. It's impossible, or at least challenging, to project unconditional understanding onto someone if you lack it for yourself in the first place. Besides, if you don't heal your wounds from the past, they will repeatedly open up and aggravate your suffering. So the first step is to raise more sympathy for your own emotional experiences. Compassion is about celebrating similarities and respecting differences. Another attribute of a healthy relationship is firm limits. You will never feel happy if you allow everyone to cross your personal boundaries. Yes, even your little ones. Of course, their reliance on you differs as they grow, but children still need advice and a familiar shoulder to cry on. Toddlers usually require a lot of attention and don't understand the concept of personal limits, which may sometimes feel intrusive. Use role play, stories, or even drawings to explain your needs. If your child is older, try having a constructive dialogue. 1. Explain your needs or side of the conflict in detail and let your child do the same. 2. Don't interrupt or criticize them. 3. Promote open-mindedness when it comes to both points of view. 4. Keep their emotions in mind. Try phrases like, "It has been difficult for both of us." Don't be ashamed to admit your anger or irritation. It will normalize these emotions for your children, showing they're completely natural and safe as long as you communicate them. On the other hand, you still bear responsibility for your words, even when angry. Admit your wrongdoings and apologize when needed. It is important to take responsibility for our actions, but not to condemn ourselves because we are not able to act in some idealized manner. Tilda Daniel J. Siegel, MD, Mary Hartzell, Med. Parenthood is one of the hardest challenges in most people's lives. By choosing this path, you automatically agree you have everything to provide for the child, financially and psychologically. However, it's rarely true, especially with the latter. You'll never know what it takes to raise a child until you do it. Still, you can prepare for potential difficulties or smoothen the rough edges that already exist in your parent-child team. The fundamental secret to shared understanding and respect is honesty and authenticity. And of course, love. The more, the better. Try this. Create a family book with each family member having a separate chapter. Include photographs, stories, or even poems. Organize a family meeting and discuss the latest issue you experienced. Listen to each other's views and find a common solution.